Graeme Cruickshank, I should say happy birthday to the CPI. What would you say the CPI has achieved in the 20 years of its existence?
Well, thank you very much for the birthday congratulations. 20 is a wonderful age, and it's 20 years of exceptional impact delivery. CPI has achieved so many different things across the years as we've grown, and those things have changed. Because interestingly, our original mission isn't exactly what we do today. We are here to deliver the greater good. We are here to deliver impact for the UK. We're here to translate or support the translation of academic research through the valley of death out into things that industry can absorb and deploy and thereby deliver impact. But the types of technologies we've worked on over the years have changed. The type of initiatives and programs we've worked with have changed. So CPI has grown literally up over those 20 years from a entity that had quite literally, I know some colleagues love to tell the story that they started with 2 people and a mobile phone and a small grant. And today is over 700, rapidly approaching 800 people, having delivered what we believe is about £3 billion worth of net impact overall to the UK economy. Our early days started around advanced materials and flexible electronic systems, whereas today most of our impact revolves around healthy living, spanning pharmaceuticals and medicines, novel biotherapeutics and vaccines, through to alternative proteins to provide more sustainable foods of the future, as well as our more traditional home of advanced materials, which at one time used to be called chemistry or chemicals. So it is fair to say that we've never lost our core roots of chemistry and biochemistry to make materials. However, the end market-facing applications have changed over the years from anaerobic digesters to make fuel gases, which we now think probably isn't that viable or valuable, to stockpiling options for future vaccine options, accelerating the rate of pharmaceutical and other medicine development, through to supporting the scale-up of materials for batteries for electric vehicles.
So, Graeme, I suspect I know the answer to this, but if CPI didn't exist, would it have to be invented?
If CPI didn't exist, we would have an awful lot of problems to be dealing with. Because the gap that CPI plugs is one that's changed shape over the years. So today, we probably wouldn't invent the CPI that we invented 20 years ago. Today, the size and shape of CPI is what is required to fill the gaps that we're addressing. Or at least it's the size and shape that's needed today, but we know it's going to change tomorrow. We know we're going to have to continue to evolve. We have been on a significant growth journey in recent years because the imperative around sustainable materials for a more circular economy and sustainable routes to a healthier lifestyle. And by healthier lifestyle, I mean pharmaceuticals and medicines, as well as alternative proteins for future foods, and indeed alternative sources of agricultural chemical support, pesticides, fertilizers, biostimulants. Those are materials which we'll need ever more of in the future that maybe we didn't focus on 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but today are essential. So would it need to be invented? Absolutely would need to be invented because the gap exists. There is a gap in the UK innovation ecosystem. There continues to be a gap in the ability to translate and scale up cutting edge technologies and ideas and insights coming from academic sources or the creative juices of the UK overall, crossing that valley of death that we're familiar with before it's ever ready for industry to consider embracing, adopting, and then the resultant challenge of industry deploying those technologies at scale. That gap continues to be there. So if CPI did not exist, that gap would exist, and we would have a completely broken innovation ecosystem. And therefore, yes, we would need to be invented.
Okay, well, the thing is that a lot of people criticize R&D funded by government going to business. They say that it doesn't cater enough for the needs of small businesses or startups. Is that fair?
It's absolutely fair to say that there's more potential in the UK, more ideas, more opportunities than we can handle today. So it's absolutely fair to say that we are capacity constrained, resource constrained. Who wouldn't argue for more investment in the ecosystem overall? That's very fair to say. However, it's also fair to recognise that in a scenario where there are more good ideas than we can handle, we do have to be choiceful. We do have to recognize that we can't do everything. So what I would ask myself and my colleagues at CPI, as well as the people we support and collaborate with from academia, SMEs, those SMEs sometimes spin out and very small and sometimes well established, is guys, don't just imagine that money will continue to be thrown at us to do with as we like. We need to be providing scrutiny and screening. We need to be showing that we're making choices. We need to be showing that we're picking winners. The country and the economy needs us to pick winners. Just because something could be done or is possible doesn't mean to say that it needs to be done or needs to be done now. So picking the winners and picking the right time for those ideas and technologies, i.e. companies, is the challenge. So yes, you're right. It's fair to say more could be done, but equally, we have to make the best with the cards we've been dealt.
Is it also fair to say that one of the criticisms levelled at government subsidy for R&D is that it's supposed to crowd in private investment, but doesn't always? Do you believe again that that's fair? That the private investment is not there to take what the work you've done and then move it to the product stage, not just the commercialization stage, but the market stage?
Again, I might surprise you with my answer. Do I believe it's fair to say that there's not enough crowding in? Yes. Yes, I absolutely believe it's fair to say that. However, it's not fair to say that there's none. It's not fair to say that there aren't people leaning in. It's not fair to say that the UK innovation ecosystem doesn't want to succeed. Okay? So it is fair to say that more can be done, but it's not fair to say that there's none. Because in reality, this is a high-risk environment. As I've just said, many people bring forward fantastic ideas that may look good on paper, but have either technical challenges in scaling up, or actually sometimes more to the point, commercial challenges around, is that really addressing an unmet market need? Does that really have a sustainable growth potential? Or will you be obsoleted by another technology in the short term? And therefore, actually it's right not to invest in it. Not because I don't think it's a good idea, it's just it's not a robust investment potential. So the notion of crowding in private investment funds is fantastic because it's exactly the right thing to do. 1 and 1 makes 3 in that sense around how do we make things bigger. So the desire, the aspiration, the ambition, correct, bang on target. Yes, we should be doing more of it. And frankly, part of our job is to help, especially the investor community, understand why investing in this space is the right thing to do. It's fair to say that occasionally investors feel, I don't want to say blindsided, but occasionally investors are being asked to invest in an area that's not a core strength for them. It's not actually a market that already exists. It's not really a product they can visualize. So you're asking people to take quite a leap of faith to invest in something that's not easy to understand. So we have to recognize that. Part of our job is to help companies understand how they describe what they've got in simpler terms that makes those who are potentially considering investing reassured, or at least understand what they're being asked to invest in. So I think things are on the up. There is the opportunity to invest more, and the more early successes that people have and the more the investment community see positive returns from their investments, the more inclined they'll be to invest or bet bigger, let's say, in future.
There seems to be a lack, however, of enough patient capital, people who are prepared to invest for that 10-year plus product life cycle in this country, because we focused, as everybody knows historically, we focused so much on financial services where there's a quicker buck to be made. Would you argue for a much, well, perhaps for a government-funded pool of patient capital that would take the work that you do through to the future it deserves, rather than, as often the case, being bought up by bargain-hungry foreign investors?
Gosh, Nick, there are several things in that narrative. Is patience required? Absolutely. Patience is absolutely required. However, there is value in a degree of urgency. There is value in a degree of, you know what, we need to get this moving. We need to make this boat go faster. So in a funny way, a balanced portfolio of funding options is what's needed, from relatively short-term, relatively quick return through to much larger quanta of funds with a much higher degree of patience. And with that, we develop a portfolio. And from that, we're able to pick the right ideas at the right time on their growth journey. Because I think it's slightly, I need to be careful how I say this, but it's slightly inappropriate to think that there's a single one size fits all, single silver bullet solution. And patient capital is essential in the ecosystem, but it's not the only solution. And I think that's the magic of the UK innovation ecosystem. And I know it's the magic of some of my colleagues in CPI who are specifically targeted with engaging the investor community. My CPI Enterprises colleagues, the organisation is led by Hannah Wade. And part of their job is to remove some of the complexity and confusion associated with all those different funding streams, because not all money's equal, not all capital's equal. Different requirements come at different times with different funders, and that's actually the barrier for many innovators or SMEs or spin-out is this the right sort of funding that I'm securing here? Because it's quite easy to be attracted by a big number and then suddenly realize that you may just have committed to something that wasn't really right for you at this stage on your journey. So part of our job is to help people understand the range of funding options available and help them make an informed choice of, is this the right investor profile with the right patience profile to take us on our next hops on this journey? Because it's unlikely to be a one-size-fits-all.
Finally, Graeme, current political debate suggests we may be moving to a future where decision-making on skills, innovation and investment becomes more decentralized, moves away from the centre and is devolved into the regions. If that's the case, is CPI equipped to deal with that? Can you rise to it?
It's not just can we must and we will rise to that opportunity. The notion of devolving power or devolving decision-making around skills and capabilities in regions is one that the country has lived through a number of times in the past. We do oscillate between devolved responsibility, centralised, devolved, centralised. We've those of you with colour, hair colour similar to mine, will have seen this on more than one occasion. And like all decisions, there are pros and cons, there are strengths and weaknesses. The concern, and I'll be honest, the concern I have about continued devolved decision-making is the risk of inadvertent duplication of capabilities across the country. And rather than having large centres of mass with scale to deliver impact, national centres of excellence, we can end up with a multitude of more modestly sized, let's say, centres of, and I need to be careful the words I use here because I don't want to say adequacy because that sets the wrong tone. But I think you can understand from my message here that regions need access to skills. Region needs local access to capabilities. That's not really a debate. However, we should as a country avoid being seduced into the proliferation of smaller facilities that don't have the required mass to deliver what's needed. So CPI in particular has major centres of capability which have significant capital investment behind them. And they are, let's be clear, they are primarily located in the northeast of England and Scotland. But the teams that we have across the country have the role of bringing those problem statements that these companies have to the centres of excellence. So one solution is, yes, build another centre in Region X. Maybe, or possibly a better or more hybrid solution is bring the problems being faced in Region X to the centres that already exist or other centres that are being created of scale to make sure that we don't replicate and duplicate, because that is wasteful. Replication and duplication might feel good in a certain locale that there's a centre nearby, but if that centre isn't of sufficient scale and depth and breadth of capability, actually I'm not sure it's the right solution for the country overall. So CPI must play a role within the regions we're located, but more importantly for the whole country that we serve.
Well, Graeme, the next 20 years sounds like they're going to be really exciting for CPI and for the rest of us. May you enjoy them.
Thank you very much. Off to have some cake now, Nick. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Graeme Cruickshank.